Welcome to episode 8 of the Recap Bulls podcast. I'm Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times. You could obviously read me in the sports section of the Sun-Times. You won't find me in any other section. Or you can look for me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at @JCowleyHoops. It's not the most fun follow, so follow at your own risk. Look, so this is these are two guys I wanted to have on. So I'm going to admit, in the summer, it is hard to find Bulls content and things to talk about, things to write about. And in that aspect, we're both kind of in the same boat. They have to come on way more frequently than I have to write in the summer and find subjects to talk about with this team. And obviously, I have to find stuff to write about, whether it's Summer League, previewing Summer League, the draft, free agency moves, all that stuff. And I'm gonna tell these guys the truth when I get them here. I think their show the last probably 12 months, 13 months, even though there's been a couple new faces with Will Purdue, has been fantastic. I mean, there's nothing more I like. I got a routine. I put my headphones on. I start the lawnmower up. I put their podcast on, whether it's from the night before, it's one I haven't listened to. And first I'm intrigued. I'm like, what are these two going to find to talk about? Because I got nothing. And it always seems to be perfect. By the time the grass is cut, the show is just about ending. So let's bring them on. We got Big Dave and Matt Peck from CHGO, my summer entertainment. And so here's what I want to say. I'm going to be like critic of the show. I think your guys' show right now is as good as it's been. Well, because not only, I mean, you two have had your history, know each other and stuff like that. Will Gottlieb's freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
And here's how you know how he's fantastic. The organization, I mean, they don't like me. They love Will. I mean, they just think Will is smart, intelligent. They listen to what he says. They don't give a shit what I say, and that's fine. But so I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, Will Purdue is a great addition. Gottlieb, obviously, we all know how I feel about him. But you two, the way you guys play off each other, Dave he's like, I was watching I was a big Walking Dead guy back in the day. And Dave is the moral compass of the show. Now, that always wasn't good in The Walking Dead because the moral compass usually got killed and they'd have to find a new moral compass.
Right,
Yeah.
Peck's the madman. You don't know where, he may let the zombies into camp and just say, hey, I was just bored, wanted to drink with the zombies. We don't know. We don't know what he's going to do. But Dave kind of keeps him in line. Will is like the smart guy. He would plan things out. Listen, Matt, you can't be friends with the zombies. It's not going to end well. And then obviously Will Purdue, he brings the rings. He brings the kind of behind the scenes thing. So I think the show right now is in as good as a place as it's been. And it's one of those things, I think the more it's one of those things, the more time you spend with it, you kind of appreciate it more. And the thing that like I said, my draw to it was, I'm like, what the hell can these guys be talking about right now? And I'm like, they found a topic because it's hard. We're in the same boat there. I have to find stuff to write about this team in the summer when you have no access to anybody. So where do you go? Right now, where do you guys think the show is?
Dave, you want to take that?
I mean,
moral compass.
I'm honestly just taking that in, bro, because that's an incredible compliment coming from somebody that Matt and I honestly really truly respect.
It's true. It's not even a compliment. It's in a good place right now.
Yeah, and
I've watched other CHG shows.
Yeah.
There's a and I'm not criticizing them, but there's just a really good attachment vibe. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I think you guys are doing a hell of a job, and it's really kind of just come together this last year or so.
Yeah, it's simple doing it with Matt, obviously because of the history we had. But even before that, when we first kind of met each other and got into it, cool with each other, it was simple then because we just kind of clicked. Even though we're completely opposite, we think the same, which is the weirdest thing ever. So, but it just works with me and him, and I'm just like, yeah, turn the camera on. We'll talk about something. Something will come up, and we will get into it, and we will talk about it. So we definitely plan out before a show what we want to say, a topic we want to get into. But once we kind of get into that topic, everything just kind of flows after that. We don't like planning anything. Matt and I are definitely we're two guys that like standing on what we say. and we don't like swaying from what we say, and we enjoy being ourselves, and we never want to change anything like that. And we hope that comes across, and it seems like that's coming across when we do our show. We enjoy just being who the hell we are. And when it comes to the Bulls, I mean, you already know how we feel about it. Like Matt and I are on the same page, but Matt is ready, to drive it off a cliff. You know what I mean? And I have to try to pump the brakes and be like, bro, hold on, not yet. You know what I mean? Like let's throw other stuff out the car before we kill ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And do it like that. But yeah, man, like it's just simple doing it with Matt when it's somebody who wants to do this as much as you want to do it. Because we will be doing this if they were, if we weren't getting paid anything, we would still be like doing this. Like we are gluttons for punishment, and we will turn on the Bulls and we will sit there and watch this team and yell about them and scream about them. And, when they do something right, we'll give them credit. When they do something wrong, we'll tell them they're doing something wrong very loudly. We'll tell them they're doing something wrong. So it's simple, Joe. Like, to be real with you, bro, like it's really simple. And I'm honestly honored and blessed I found somebody like Matt that I can do something like this with, who understands my insanity and is not trying to change it. And I understand his insanity, and I'm not trying to change it. We're just trying to elevate each other each time. And Will, like you said, Will is definitely the adult of the show. And we never want to do anything to harm Will. And Will sometimes has to rein us in. I've said this to Will before. I'm like, Will, you're the guy that can look at a fire from a mile away and be like, that fire is hot. I'm not going over there. I'm not touching it. And I'm the guy who's like, yeah, well, how hot is it? Maybe I can get through it, and I want to go touch it because I'm hard-headed. You know what I mean? I got to touch it and feel it to see it. But yeah, Will Gottlieb is definitely that guy. Bulls probably love him because of the hair as well. The coif is amazing. And yeah, Will Purdue that's just, I still can't get over that. 10-year-old me is freaking out every time I sit there and I talk to Will Purdue, man. Yeah. And yeah, we learn a lot and we talk a lot, and to call him a friend and the knowledge that he brings, and yeah, it's amazing. So I'm really thankful, Joe Cowley, that you say stuff like that, bro.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
I mean, I can echo a lot of what Dave said. And first of all, let me just say how honored I am that you invited us on. Now that you are officially a member of the Bulls Blog Boy community, Joe, hosting your own Bulls podcast.
I'm in my basement. Look at me.
Exactly. Our mutual friend Mark K would be so proud of you.
I'm going to try getting Mark on. I really am. Yeah.
Drag him out of his retirement and have
him out.
I'm sure he'd love to. But yeah, I mean, as far as where our show is now, like Dave, I appreciate the compliments, and I think we've just found a really solid balance. Obviously, Dave and I had built-in chemistry of doing stuff together for years, obviously starting with Bulls Outsiders, and then he came on and joined me on Locked on Bulls for 6-7 months before we jumped on to CHGO. So whereas a lot of the other CHGO shows, the hosts of those shows were people that were in the Chicago media community but had never done shows together before, had to sort of slowly build that chemistry. Big Dave and I just jumped in from day one with pretty strong pre-existing chemistry. So that, I think, was a huge help from the beginning. And then bringing in a respected basketball mind and writer like Gottlieb, who's just so good at what he does, added another element. And we have slowly coaxed the more playful side of his personality out of him from when he started, which is like, oh, I got to do podcasts with these guys all the time, these friggin' jokesters. But he adds something that Big Dave and I cannot. And in the same way, Will Purdue add something that Dave and I cannot, with the experience, with the stories of the glory days, the gravitas that he has. But also, one of the favorite things for me so far this season and bringing Purdue in is seeing the sort of let off the leash version of Uncle Will, as we lovingly refer to him, because he was doing that buttoned up NBC show for years and years and years.
Yes.
And no knock on that product. It's great for what it is, but I think
you could only say so much.
Exactly. I think a big part of the draw, because let's be honest, podcasting and startup money is not as good as TV money. I think something that worked in our favor when we were pitching Purdue was like, hey, come on our platform and say whatever's on your mind. I think he has really taken to that and embraced it. And bottom line, whether it's now or whether it's when we started 2 years ago or 3 years ago at CHGO, or when we started in 2018 in Outsiders, I think Big Dave and I, our goal with whoever we're collaborating with has always been just giving Bulls fans a platform to come and communicate with one another, communicate with us, five Bulls podcasts a week, even through the offseason months, as you were saying, sounds like an insane thing to do. But Bulls fans are rabid and passionate, and you know that better than anybody, Joe. I think it's why a lot of the Bulls fans who know what's what respect and appreciate what you do, because but I mean, like, regardless of how Bulls fans feel on the spectrum of what the team should be doing versus what they are doing, wherever they are on that spectrum, they are passionate, and they want people who are covering the team passionately because it is what they love to do, and that's what we do.
So, and the thing, 2 points you brought up that it's not even the local Bulls fans. You guys were in that you guys came to Paris and we're in France. It's a worldwide brand. It's a freaking worldwide brand. Unfortunately, way too often run like a mom and pop store instead of a worldwide brand. And the other thing, Dave, you mentioned. So, Casey Johnson, my brother from another, you were talking about your guys' relationship, and it kind of reminds me of KC's and I were, I don't think people, when you look at KC and you look at me, you probably think, oh, these two couldn't be more different. We travel together. We flew today together. We went and got lunch together. We're actually a lot more alike than people think, just by appearances. And I thought it was funny that you brought that up. But at the same time, when, we raced from the airport to get to shoot around here in Charlotte, and we go there, and the differences, which I kind of see in you two, KC's got a plan. He knows who he wants to interview, who he wants to talk to. I'm like, Kobe. And actually, and I just start riffing with Kobe, and it ended up being a really good interview. Kobe talked about the difficulty that he admitted that there is difficulty with him letting Josh run the controls, and it was a lot more difficult at first, which he really hadn't opened up about. He talked about him being a trade candidate. He thought about that. And then what was the other thing I thought was interesting? Oh, the style of play Billy's running, how attractive that could be once they are ready to be buyers, that this is the kind of style guys will want to play in. A lot of guys look at the style as, do I want to play for this coach, what kind of style are they playing? So I thought that was interesting that Kobe talked about that. But again, I don't like to have a plan. Where KC is but the relationship works. And that's how I see how your guys' relationship works. All right, let's get into the Bulls. What the hell are we doing?
Do we have to?
What? So, look, I think
breathe.
My mindset, the NBA is different than any other sport.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the NFL, one good draft, you could flip it around. Parity, it could flip around in 1 year. The NBA is not like that. You could land that dude like with San Antonio. Wemby, I think, is a generational talent. So you could land that dude, but you still need the pieces around him, the right culture around him, the right style of play around him. So there's so much that goes into it. We've seen when you just try building the big three. It's worked a couple times with Miami, Boston, with Garnett and those guys. It worked. But for the most part, there's been a lot more failures in it. Look at Phoenix. It's a failure. The Clippers have had numerous failures. Brooklyn tried it, failure. So you just can't throw guys in there. But the piece you need across the board, and I know this because I have the history of the NBA the last 20-some years to back me. You need that dude to be a serious playoff contender. Mm-hmm. And until you land that dude and understand how to land him, you're just mediocre. You're just a laughing stock. At the end of the day, you're 1, 2, 3 Cancun. So that's my frustration is I think Arturas, when he came in, I like the original plan. I don't fault him for that. The Lonzo Ball injury was bad, but at the same time, when you're an executive, you have to have a plan B. You have to be able to pivot. Where are you guys right now with this team and the frustration level, especially this season, seeing teams so obviously? When we were in Washington a couple of weeks ago, I told this to Will. Someone from the organization even told us, "Oh, this is a 2-year tank this year, and we love that 26 draft class because we know we got to try getting as many dudes as possible from 25 and 26." Toronto, their players were admitting at media day, but we know what this is. Then we arrive here in Charlotte, and obviously I don't know when this podcast is going to edit and be taped, but let me just tell you, anytime a team that's below the Bulls sees the Bulls coming to town, they sit any type of player that could mess with them beating the Bulls. Mm-hmm. where is your frustration level where mine is as far as, hello, is anyone seeing what you need to do instead of worrying about asses in the seats?
Go ahead, man.
I am with you, Joe. I quote tweeted you yesterday when you were talking about where the Bulls are in the standings and what the heck is going on, and there was somebody in my replies who was like, "Well, name the last tanking team to like turn around and win a championship, Peck. Like, don't worry, I'll wait." And I don't have the time in my day to explain to dumb people on Twitter what's what, so I just laughed it off. But it's not about like, well, you got to tank to then win a championship. It's what you just said, Joe. It's like you need that piece. You need that player to then build around with other quality draft picks that might not be lottery level picks, but they fit the system.
Yes.
And I mean, if you look at the teams that are at the top of the league right now, Boston technically wasn't a tanking team. They just benefited from a trade where they, absolutely destroyed the
But
Nets.
they collected draft picks for years.
They collected draft picks constantly, and at the top of that list were two high-level picks in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who just led them to a championship. The Knicks used two high-level lottery picks in Barrett and Randall when they got as far as they could go to then flip them for other quality players. Memphis, Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., high-level lottery picks. OKC, yeah, they got Shea in a trade, but they complemented with Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, quality draft picks. Orlando and what they're doing with Paolo and Wagner. Like, you need quality first-round draft capital to build good teams. Tanking is such a triggering word for Bulls fans. It's not about tanking. It's the means to the end. And the one way the Bulls can get to that end right now of getting a franchise level talent. I don't know why that's so complicated for some people, whether they be Bulls fans or, dear God, Bulls executives, to understand.
Yeah. No, it's very, very simple. And we say it all the time on the show. Nobody likes losing. Nobody's cool with it. Nobody's looking forward to it. It's not something that we want to do. But if you can't look at this team and understand what needs to be done, then something's wrong with what you're looking at. Like, we see what's happening. You can't build the culture that the front office is talking about, and you can't cheat your way to it. You can't slide in your way to it. That doesn't happen in the NBA. You might get away with it for a year, but it's gonna come down and it's gonna fall. That's not how it works. I don't care what organization that wins you point at. I guarantee you it is sustained, and it's not something that they just fell into. That is not how that works. Of course, you can get lucky and get LeBron James, D Wade, and Chris Bosh on your team. Are the Bulls going to do something like that? They couldn't do it then, and they're not about to do it now. It's not going to happen. This is the way to actually do it and get it done. And we just want to do it now so we can get out of this. So let's do this. Give ourselves an opportunity to find, as you call it, Joe, as everybody call that dude. You give yourself that opportunity to find that guy. I don't care if it's 1. I don't care if it's 10. That's the front office's job, to understand who is that guy and highlight that guy and get that guy on your team. I don't care. You can find guys everywhere. Of course, you can find them higher in the draft, but you can find them anywhere. But you have to get in it. The Bulls giving that away would be astronomically setting them back and be a really stupid decision for them to do. They have to go ahead and embrace what this team is if they want to get the culture and the winning style that they want for years and years and years.
And I would say out of all the teams right now, when you look and you say, okay, who are the bottom 12, 13 teams, probably 10 that are obviously tanking, the Bulls are in the best situation and position to tank because, A, asses are going to be in the seats no matter what, and B, Chicago, every team in Chicago is suck rebuilding right now. So the fan base is going to get mad at the Bulls? That's the hill they're going to die on? Please. The other thing, too, and you brought up a good point, is people take my reality, and I'm sure your guys' reality, as negativity. But here's what they don't understand at the end of the day. If the Bulls are a legit, imagine if the Bulls are, and obviously Denver has a show like this, right? This is where this company started. Imagine if, and it's huge there.
Yeah.
Imagine if the Bulls take off and they're a 2 or 3 seed in 4 or 5 years. Say God comes down and he smiles on Arturas and he gets them Cooper Flag. Somehow they get Cooper Flag or Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, whoever it is. And say next year they hit another dude and they've got dudes and they're building this thing. How much better does that put you guys and what you guys and how much better does it put the newspaper and people wanting to gobble up content? So the idea that we're haters and just want the Bulls to fail, it takes food off of our table. And I don't think people understand that. Fans don't understand that we eat when the Bulls are doing better. And I would guess that you guys, I don't know how the thing in Denver's going, but I heard it's huge there.
Yeah, we eat like everybody else. Like, it's better when they're winning. Like we're old enough to remember the championship years. Like everybody ate. Everybody ate. Even if you weren't hungry, everybody ate. Everybody got food to eat for the Chicago Bulls.
Bill Wennington was getting commercial deals.
There you go.
Judge Bushler was getting $30 million deals from Detroit. You know what I mean? Like everybody was eating. Randy Brown was getting checks. Like everybody ate, man. And that is what we know. Like maybe we're spoiled because of what I watched. And the way I watch greatness be attained and how it was done. Maybe I'm spoiled in that way. But I know that you can't cheat your way to it and there's no backdoor to greatness. I do know that. And you have to go through the fire to go ahead and get to the other side. That's just how it is in the NBA. If you're scared of going through that fire, well, then you're going to be in that mediocre life forever. Yep. That is exactly where you're going to be. You have to go ahead and go through it to get to it. That is the rule out here for the Chicago Bulls. Life for us, Joe, would be absolutely better. Like winning is great for us. It'd be great for you. It'd be great for anybody that's doing any kind of content for this Chicago Bulls team. And it allows us to actually be happy. In the years I've worked with Matt Pett, I have not seen him be able to dive into his meathead fandom of this team.
Oh no,
I hasn't been able to do it yet.
I have one time.
I've been doing it. I ain't seen it.
No, you did too.
For a season. I saw it for a game. I ain't never seen it for a year.
When he met Joe Keane.
No, that's different. No. I was there for that, Joe. That's
not attached to the Bulls winning on the floor.
Yes, I'm talking about Bulls winning on the floor. No, that's a different beat.
Makeout session. I thought it was a makeout session.
Look,
he
Joe,
tilted his head. He tilted his head and went in.
Joe, listen, Joe. That was the greatest thing I ever facilitated in my life, was getting Matt to meet him. I'll tell you the whole story about it at another time, dog. But yes, that was a moment. But again, that had to do with Joakim Noah and his greatness and winning. All of that combined, because Matt loved how he played, loved what he brought to the team, loved how he elevated the team, loved he would if his foot was hurt, he's still going out getting 24, 12, and 6 in a game 7. And I'm talking about 6 blocks. Like, that's how good he was, man. Right. I'm talking about, I haven't seen it since the Bulls have been a team. Me and Matt have been doing this together, of him just have a season where he could just dive in and say, I'm a fan right now. And I really enjoy what I'm looking at. And this makes me joyful. And this makes me happy. Not moments, not little spots and touches and things like that. A whole year. Why? Because he has to deal with the reality of the situation of what we're looking at.
Matt, how many years of pain do you think you get if they were doing this right? Because if they do it right, it's going to be painful. It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
How many years could you go through it with the feeling that, at least I know they're trying it. They're going to at least try it. And you need lottery luck. You need a lot of things to go your way. I get it. But I mean, can you stop from throwing the hat? Does the hat stay on the head if that's the direction?
Honestly, Joe, the moments where I feel like tossing hats this season are when they're winning games they shouldn't. And I'm worried about them not understanding the greater good and the greater purpose. When they traded Caruso and, let DeMar go in that sign and trade because they couldn't find a trade for Zach, so they couldn't afford to bring DeMar back, and finally decided to sort of pivot course, I was mentally preparing myself for a season of losing Bulls basketball. And guess what? I've got a lot of practice since my job has been watching and talking about Bulls basketball. It's been mostly that. Like, my God, the season that Dave and I started Outsiders was the season they fired Fred Hoiberg and replaced him with the bald-headed menace. That was the early days of Dave and I talking about Bulls basketball together. I'm used to talking about losers. I can get through losing seasons if, as a fan, I believe that they are enduring those losing seasons for a greater goal ahead. what drives me crazy is thinking about, as I just, quipped to you before we hit record, the Bulls playing in the 9-10 play-in tournament game again this season. That is mired in mediocrity, stuck in mediocrity. AK said when he took the job, we will not accept mediocrity. And it's been mediocrity since. That his plan A, as you described it, fell apart. There was no plan B. So we went from a team that was at the top of the East at the All-Star break to a 6th seed barely hanging on and losing in 5 in the first round to back-to-back play-in tournament exits. That gets you nowhere. And that is what drives me crazy as a fan. I can endure losing seasons if I believe they have a plan. I don't believe they have a plan, and that's what drives me crazy.
So the Outsiders is when I met you guys, correct?
Yeah.
Before the Outsiders, were you guys doing something together, or were you guys doing? No.
Dave and I didn't know each other when we got to those auditions. I was doing the Locked On Bulls pod for Locked On Network a long time. I think I had you on Locked On Bulls years and years ago, Joe.
A couple of those I won't say a couple. I think a lot of the podcast guys don't like me. That's fair to say, right?
I think I can loosely confirm that there are some people in the Bulls podcasting community
and they've never asked to have me on.
Who would not put you at the top of their list of favorite people.
Okay.
But I always try to explain to people you got to love and appreciate Joe Cowley for who Joe Cowley is. Honestly, in the earlier days when I was trying to get into this and, reading all the stuff from all the beat reporters and seeing how you behave, I was like, there were moments in my life where I was like, oh, God, this Joe Cowley guy is so freaking annoying. And the more time I spent dedicating my life to covering Bulls basketball, the more and more I'm like, God, I feel like Joe Cowley.
You started understanding that. When it was always
it's funny because the White Sox fans, especially by the end, I mean, my White Sox days ended. So I broke the story that they traded Ozzie.
Mm-hmm.
Then later that night they announced it. My sports editor Chris DeLuca called me. He's like, "Hey, it was like 2 or 3 games left. There's no reason for you to stay with the team. Just fly down to Miami with Ozzie." I flew down to Miami with Ozzie. Got that was like the best interview I think I've ever done. That's when he said Don Cooper's nothing but an F and Judas. The White Sox wanted to F me and not marry me. I mean, it was just unfiltered Ozzie on the record. Just let him have it. And then I write the story, and I get a call from Chris DeLuca, and I've told this story before, and he's like, "You're done." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You can put the sword down. You're done. There's no reason for you to cover the White Sox anymore. There's no more bridges left. Everything is done."
Wow.
We're going to, they ended up giving me a column for a couple of years, and then I switched to the Bulls, but it was done. That was the swan song. But it was funny because the White Sox fans hated me. And then when I left the beat, then it was like, well, we need Joe Cowley. We need Colonel Jessup on the wall. It's like, no, you couldn't handle me on the wall, and now I'm gone. So you're stuck with what you got. So, but the minute I met you guys, when you guys came out, I thought we hit it off, and I was like, I just think that it's funny that content creators or podcasters or whatever with the Bulls, I mean, if they'd asked me to come on and talk about why they have it difficult with me, I'd come on 100%. I'm very honest, very transparent. So,
yeah.
So
that's why I like you, because you're honest. That's why I like you, because you're an honest guy.
What's your guys' feelings on Billy? Because it always seems to be kind of a mixed bag. I know how Will feels about Billy, because Will and I talk about Billy, and I think we have to deal with him in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for the most part, I always give coaches the benefit of the doubt. That's always been my history. I thought I was always pro Jerry Manuel, and very few people were. I was pro Ozzie, obviously. Boylan was probably the only one I ended up having serious issues with, where it almost got into lawsuits and other stuff. But that's a story for another day.
I was going to say, let's share that story over a drink sometime.
So, what's your guys' feelings on Billy? Because it always seems like I know how Will feels, but you guys seem to kind of go back and forth on him. Is that fair?
That's very fair. That's honestly one of the debates Will and I have when we talk about Billy. Because I'm in the middle. Like you just said, It's a mixed bag for me. Like, he deserved the praise, but he also deserves the criticism. Like, he's not absolved from these things. I've watched him as Will would break it down to me, he was like, when DeMar was here last year, he was like, dude, their offense is DeMar DeRozan and Andre Drummond getting rebounds and putbacks. Like, that's the offense for the Chicago Bulls. And it's brilliant what Billy had to do with so much less. Like, he turned this from a defensive team into a team that's a transition team right now that is running. Right. And he's done it in a year. Like, it's been incredible to watch. I've also seen him lose games. Like, I've also watched that. I watched, of course, obviously taking Kobe out in the play-in, and everybody lost their mind about that, and we didn't see him again. We just saw him in the Atlanta game not call a timeout when they were down 16 with 6 minutes to go. Not take a timeout. Yeah, and Billy always takes timeouts. Always. Yeah. And we just saw him not take
30 seconds into a game, Billy takes a timeout on a free throw.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It didn't just say, no, I'm not going to do it today. Like, it was very weird. Like, he's in the middle for me. Like, I'm not going to give him all the praise, and I'm not going to give him all the
NBA coaching tiers, where do you put him?
In the middle, just like the Bulls.
Yeah. I was going to say, he's a perfect coach for the Bulls because he is in the middle of people who are good and people who are bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. I mean, so I put him, I think there's a first tier of elite coaches. I think your Spoelstras, your Tibbs, Casey and I debate Carlisle all the time. I think he's more Carlisle than I am. Mazzulla. I'll tell you what, someone who's grown up is Mazzulla.
Woo, that man can coach. Yeah. Yes.
And he's a badass too.
And he's fiery. Like, at that full Celtics game like last week.
He wanted to fight the whole ref crew. Yeah. And then I put Billy in that second tier, which to me, this is not a great coaching organization. It's hard, I think, to bring because of what they've done to coaches in the past, whether it's firing guys on Christmas Day, how they kicked Tibbs in the ass out the door and made it so he couldn't say anything when it wasn't an NDA, but basically it was. If you criticize us, you don't get the money we owe you. So we'll send a statement out the door up your ass is what Jerry did. So, and Carlisle's the head of the coaching association, and he'll never admit it, but I know coaches that they put a warning out, stay away from the Bulls job. So it's not the greatest place to coach because of the way ownership at times has treated coaches. So when I factor in all of that, I consider Billy a second-tier coach below that first tier, and at least until I see a complete change in philosophy or a change in personnel, I think that's as good as a coach as you're going to get, is a second-tier guy. And I'm not saying Billy can't win it, but a lot of things have to be right around Billy to win it. That's what a second-tier coach is. And trust me, there's a bottom five of the NBA that's just horrific. I'm not saying Fred was probably a below-average coach in a really bad situation. Mm-hmm. He did not understand the dysfunction that he was coming to, and it overwhelmed him. It was Opie getting dropped in Harlem. That's what I equated to. Opie Taylor, you're not in Mayberry, and where's Pa? Where's Aunt B? No, you're in Harlem. Enjoy yourself. Jimmy Butler, get him. Oh. So, and Boylan was a complete punchline. But
look at all the young guys the Bulls have drafted who have grown from children into men because he prepared them for the road, Joe. I mean, that was Jim's hard work there, and look at how we're reaping the benefits.
Matt, you never want to double lose. All right, that's just not something you want to do.
You can't double lose.
No,
can't double lose.
Not a thing.
That's why you bench your starters like 30 seconds into the second half of a game.
Message sent.
Punch clocks.
This Saturday, Derrick Rose night.
Yeah.
I have obviously my feelings about it.
Yes.
I wrote a column a couple weeks ago that they should announce Derrick's number is being retired. And it has nothing to do with his greatness as a player, because I think he's overrated as a player. I think it was a comet that shot across the sky for 2.5 seasons. To me, it's a culture, a seismic shaking of the culture that he brought. Kind of like Allen Iverson in Philadelphia. Iverson never won it. He got him to the finals and they lost to the Lakers. But what he meant to the culture of that team deserves a number retirement. And trust me, I think Derrick Rose can't hold a candle to Iverson on his best day. That's just my opinion. But I know you guys have a lot of stuff planned, but because of what that team meant to you guys and meant to the city, what's that going to be like? Have you thought about it? I mean, I'm sure as a fan, it's probably something that's emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I can't wait. Like, honestly, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to.
And you guys have a
it.
bunch of events. I've heard you guys promo the events. It sounds like people that are subscribers are I mean, you guys have got a lot of cool things going on.
Yeah, we're having a sweet takeover. That day we'll be in the suite watching it. If anybody wants to come, you're still more than welcome. There are still tickets available. All you can eat, all you can drink. Dessert cart. Will Purdue, myself, Matt. I
might swing by.
Will Gottlieb.
Cowley might swing by.
Yeah, get you a swag, man. We'll get you that D Rose hoodies. We'll get you that Rose hoodie, sir. Yeah, man. Like, yeah, come on through. Die Hard, you get money off of that too, if you're a Die Hard. So it's gonna be an amazing night, and it's more of a night for Chicago. I'm sure Matt. I already know what Matt's gonna say about this and where he stands on this. So I'm gonna let him.
I mean, you love D Rose, right, Matt? You love it.
Of course. Okay. Like, yeah, I love D Rose, and I'm excited to see this, this piece of Chicago sports history coming up when they honor him and what he meant to Bulls fans and what he means still to the city of Chicago. I am dragging my feet on making a big grand event of this, and I've boycotted essentially any financial investment in being a fan of this team for the last few years, while AK and Eversley have looked around like lost puppies, not knowing how the hell to make this team a good team. And I, on our platform all the time, will grandstand and say, hey, Bulls fans, if you actually want to see some changes around here, then stop giving them your money for a mediocre product, because as long as you keep doing that, a mediocre product is what you're going to get. And so I am morally opposed to this, because Derrick Rose retirement night is exactly what they've always done. It's the same Reinsdorf playbook. Make money off of nostalgia. And Bulls fans are suckers for nostalgia. It's all we have. For younger fans, nostalgia is Derrick and Joakim and those teams that actually went to the playoffs and tried to win championships. For older generations, nostalgia is 6 championships. So I'm conflicted in that way. Right. Feeling about Derrick Rose night, but at the same time, I've been a Bulls fan my entire life, obviously grew up watching championships. That D Rose and Joakim team in the late aughts, I paid attention to the baby Bulls and they were fun, but seeing the comment across the Derrick Rose, Chicago's own rookie of the year, second year All-Star, third year MVP with all these quality players around him, looking like they were about to go take down the Heatles in the playoffs. That is what really revived my Bulls fandom to a level of insanity. And it's why I'm sitting here talking to both of you right now, because it's why I was like, yo, this Bulls stuff is in my blood. And that team really revived it and set it ablaze again. So D Rose will always mean that to me. And I think in a lot of similar ways, he will always mean something like that to every Chicago sports fan, every Bulls fan all over the world.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not Derrick Rose night for me. It's Steelers Bengals night. That's big in my eyes.
It's good to know where your priorities are.
I'll be there. So it's as of this week, we're still waiting to hear if it's actually going to be an announcement that his number is going to be retired.
Maybe.
It sounds like there is a conflict on if they want to do that. Hopefully brighter minds prevail and decide to, I don't think he deserves a statue. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Sorry, I just don't. But I do think because of what he meant for the culture of Chicago basketball, that he should have his number retired. They're not allowing anyone to have that number anyway, because trust me.
That's right.
I tried. I had Jimmy telling them he's taking that number. That was my Lex Luger master plan when Derrick was traded. Jimmy and I were talking. I'm like, you know what you got to do? What? You got to take the number 1. And he tried. Now, see, if that would have been pulled off, do you understand the legacy I would have had? I would have.
Yeah, you would have had a legacy. You also may have been shot down in the street.
You know what I mean?
I would never have admitted it was me. I can't now because it failed.
That's just like a supervillain.
Exactly. I could talk about it now because they didn't let Jimmy have it because I think they knew it was Jimmy and me talking him into doing it, and they said no. But that would have been, oh my gosh, just a master stroke of. Imagine that. He just unveils that on media day, and I'm just sitting in the back, just smiling, knowing
Right.
Lex Luger pulled it off. He now has the number one.
Got your cat.
Damn it! Yeah, pet that cat.
Oh man.
All right, so something I like to do when I have people on, quick like little interrogation room. I'll ask you some questions real quick. Some of them are just for you individually. Some of them are you for both. So if I don't say your name specifically, both of you answer it. All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
What TV show right now is a guilty pleasure? Like, I'm a Vanderpump Rules guy. I'm not going to lie.
Frasier, and credit to Dave, because I was too young to watch Frasier when that show was actually airing. And I don't know, a few years back, Big Dave said something that was a Frasier quote to me, and he and I always quote things that we just, without talking or knowing previously, we quote the same movies and TV shows all the time. We speak that same language. And he was like, wait, you never watched Frasier? I was like, no. He was like, dude, go home tonight and put on season 1, episode 1 of Frasier and watch that whole freaking show.
You were hooked. Yeah.
And now I've watched it all the way through, and we'll still just go and put on random episodes as a guilty pleasure. It's how I decompress after Bulls post games some nights. I'm like, I need 2 episodes of Frasier before I go to bed.
Oh, Love is Blind. And I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not even a guilty pleasure. I enjoy watching that show.
I
watch episode 1 and I'll be like, oh my God, why am I watching this dumb stuff, man? This is stupid.
Yeah.
And by episode 6, I'm like,
yeah.
Frederick, don't you break her heart. I will hunt you down. I will hunt you down if you do that. Like, yeah. So yeah, I do it every year.
A Bulls player you hated.
Dwayne Wade.
John Starks.
Okay. Out of the CHGO family that's, in your studio, who's the best athlete that wasn't a former athlete?
GOAT. Will Perdue? Does he count?
No, that was not a former athlete.
Okay, all right.
He was not a former athlete.
Probably
professional athlete. GOAT.
Maybe Moriano and Ryan, like basically just like the people who helped us win the like Chicago Media Cup softball league championship the last couple seasons. Yeah. Shout out to our former producer Joey Spathis. He was their pitcher.
Back.
Basically, I'm just realizing now that I just named most of the young people around our office.
Right, there you go.
Who can still get around a base path, which is why I, after 1 year of CHGO softball and pulling my quad every time I ran to first base, was like, all right, I'm done.
Fair time.
He was an all-star also, Joe. Don't let him leave that out. He was an all-star. So yeah.
What would mean more to you right now? Obviously, you guys do the Bulls stuff, but what would mean more to you right now? The Bears win a Super Bowl or the Bulls win a title?
Oh man,
for me, it's Bears because I was born in '87 and have never seen a Bears Super Bowl victory.
Yeah, because I know nothing will shut the city down like a Bears title. Like even the Bulls winning 6 wouldn't mean more than the Bears winning 1. So yeah, give me that. Give me a Super Bowl, man.
Yeah, you probably won't see one of those.
Yeah, fair.
Are you guys Cubs or Sox?
Cubs.
I'm Sox.
Cubs.
I converted early on somewhere in my childhood, like because early in my childhood I was a White Sox fan because I was obsessed with Frank Thomas. I was because I was a pretty heavy set kid and I was like in love with baseball at the time and I played baseball and I was like, hey, I could do what he does. I could be heavy set and swing the bat and go play one of those positions where you don't have to move a lot. And then I think it was like in like the rise of Sammy when I kind of transitioned and became a Cubs fan. But as far as like my tier of Chicago sports fandom, like, I'm not trying to trigger anybody, but baseball, I know they're trying to speed up the game, but it is not a sport that speaks to me as much as basketball, football, even hockey.
Right.
Yeah.
First move you would make as Bulls executive VP right now. First move you'd make. You got one transaction to make.
Does the executive VP have authority to sell the team to different owners?
He does not have that. No.
Damn.
No, he does not. Can't do that.
I mean, between now and that early February trade deadline, find draft capital, even if it's second round draft capital, for Vooch, for Lonzo. Try your darndest to find a trade for Zach. Right. And like, for the love of God, I don't know. I don't even care if you have to give it as a decree to Billy. Bring it down to Billy's office on a stone tablet. For the love of God, play Modest Buzelis more minutes. Like, what are we doing here?
Right.
Play that
Dave?
shit. Hiring a GM that is much smarter than me is exactly my first.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Chicago sports moment that still haunts you.
Ooh. Oh,
Derrick Rose tearing his knee. Still haunts me.
Okay.
Still haunts me to this day. I remember everything about it. Haunts me. That was a horror movie, man. Absolutely.
That one was brutal. Obviously losing to the Heat in the conference finals in 11, like after winning game 1 so convincingly, and then seeing how that fell apart. Also lose the Hugh Hollins call, like the ghost foul on Scottie Pippen in that series, that destroyed me. The Bulls losing to Orlando in the playoffs in '95 when I was a young kid. It was like, MJ's back, we're winning another one. Losing that series with Grant, with Horace Grant being the hero for Orlando, celebrating on the Bulls floor, I was like, yo. I was a child, and I was like, I want to kill something. Like that one still stings.
It raised my supervillain level because I knew what next year was going to be. Watching him getting carried off. Jordan takes that personally. Yeah, for sure.
This one's Dave only.
Yeah.
I know you love your job. I know you love the Bulls.
I do.
You have to quit your job and you get a Bulls title. Do you do it? You got to walk away.
No, hell no.
All right, I like it.
Hell no.
All right, this one's for Matt.
Like, no, absolutely not. Matt wouldn't let me do that.
Don't be so sure, Dave. if we finally get that elusive 7th, I might think about walking away.
All right, this one's for Matt. There's a bus. It's got Big Dave in it, your buddy.
Mm-hmm.
There's another bus. It's got Joakim Noah in it. They're both going over a cliff. You could only save one. Who do you save?
My Joe, that is such a mean,
that is a villain question, baby.
This is get the number 1 jersey, Jimmy. It's the whole thing all over again.
I will find a way to save both.
There's no way.
Yeah. I save both of them while sacrificing myself because Joakim and Big Dave both deserve to keep on living more than I do.
All right, boys. Hey, this was great. I'm glad you guys could jump on and do this. Since Cap first handed me this podcast, and I was thinking of people to have on, I'm like, I got to have them on. I want to have them on together. So, and like I said, I'm not bullshitting you guys. I think the show, I don't watch all the other CHGO shows because just I don't have I'm not from Chicago. I don't have really.
Chicago sports fan.
Right. Exactly. But I watch you guys because I appreciate what you do, and I think you guys, as far as the place of the show right now, I think it's as good as a place as it's been. So keep rocking it, keep doing it, and I'll keep watching it when I'm cutting the grass. Keep me entertained every summer, buddy.
We got you, Joe.
Joe. Means a lot. A lot of respect for what you do. You do it well. You do it, better than anyone, and it is very cool that you are now someone in the Bulls podcasting community. And the fact that you wanted to talk to the two of us hooligans is truly humbling and means a lot. So, we're always down to talk Bulls 24/7, 365. It's what we do.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, fellas. You guys take care.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, now. Peace, Joe.
Love those guys. They're good. I mean, and like I said, that's why I wanted to have them on. They remind me a lot of kind of like the guys when you're on a beat, or you're doing what they're doing, which I don't think people understand all the time. I mean, that becomes your family. I have a wife. I have 3 kids. I have great in-laws, a great father-in-law, great parents. But when you're on the road or you're doing something all the time like those guys are, I mean, that becomes your family. And the fact that you can get along with those people, it shows. I mean, it shows on camera with those guys. I think they're funny. I think they're witty. I think they understand what's going on. So, kudos to them. They're making that thing work. So, all right, let's go to Cowley Island, my weekly rant. And there it is. So, again, I don't know when this podcast is going to show, but let me just explain to you what happened. We show up in Charlotte, or the Milwaukee Bucks are coming in, not just only last Saturday, but the Saturday before. Brooklyn, we went there earlier in the year, and I'm saying we as the media. I'm trying to think of other places. everywhere we go, if it's a team that's ahead of the Bulls or better than the Bulls, they have no respect for them, so they rest their guys. Giannis hasn't played either game in Chicago. Dame sat one of them out. He played this last one that the Bucks lost. Brooklyn rested guys. I think Atlanta plays the Bulls whole, but you know what? Atlanta doesn't have its own first-round pick this year. That's kind of strange that Atlanta doesn't really look at the Bulls that way. But then we show up in Charlotte, and of course, Brandon Miller, doubtful. LaMelo Ball, doubtful. Basically saying, here you go, Bulls. We understand what we need to do to make sure that we keep our first-round pick and stay in the lottery and get as good a pick as we can. You knuckleheads don't. So you play your full team, whoever can play, whoever's healthy. Let them all go out there. You know, I don't think anyone, Jalen Smith, will see, but I'm talking about the main players in this. It's just like every team below the Bulls or in the Bulls area code gets it. The front office gets it. They understand the magnitude of this draft. And yet it feels like the Bulls just don't get it. And again, I gave it that window of 30 to 35 games. We're in that window to showcase your talent, your Vooches, your Levines, your Lonzo Balls. Showcase them for the rest of the league to see, look, they're relatively healthy as far as Lonzo goes. Zach, the knee looks strong. Vooch, I think he missed a couple games with illness or whatever it was. I don't get it, and now I'm starting to get worried. So why is the rest of the league and the bottom half of the league and places like Charlotte that are as poorly run an organization as the NBA has suddenly looking smarter than the Bulls? That's frustrating. All right, and let's end it with the list. I like to do a list every week. If anybody saw Amen Thompson, Tyler Hero, little scrap. So then I was thinking, because I saw the Tyler Hero interview after with the shades on. People are saying he's him. He's actually not him. Tyler Hero's not scaring anybody. I know there's video of him boxing. Just watch how he's throwing punches. And Amen Thompson was going to be fine if punches were thrown. Who are my list of the toughest guys that I think are currently in the NBA? I'm talking like all alley team. Like you go down alley with these dudes and you're not flinching because these dudes they're about that life. Steven Adams. You talk to anybody in the NBA, especially big guys have to guard him. No one is stronger. He's hurt a lot, but some of the stuff he's played through, PCLs and torn this, torn that. Look, Aussies are a different breed sometimes. That dude's a different breed. Jimmy Butler. Anybody that knows Jimmy's background and how Jimmy was raised, living basically homeless, and Jimmy's a tough dude. He's about that life. Nikola Jokic. Forget his brothers. His brothers are absolute maniacs that you would not want to mess with. But Jokic, look what he did to Morris. You throw a cheap shot to me, I'm not your typical Euro that you're going to get away with something. I think Morris was out for like a year with that back injury from that forearm shiver that the Joker gave him. Tough guy. Don't let the kind of doughy look fool you. Draymond Green, and no, like that's going to be controversial. Cheap shot artist, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? If you're going to throw a cheap shot as frequently as Draymond does, you have to guess at some point someone's going to punch back, so you have to be willing to put yourself out there. And I don't think anybody puts themselves out there as much as Draymond. And those Michigan State dudes are wired a little different. So, and finally, the guy that number one, and it's not even close. And if anybody knows this guy's background, this is the one guy in the NBA that all the players say, do not mess with him, James Johnson. Forget martial arts. He's MMA. I think he's a black belt, whatever. Forget all that stuff. He fights in MMA fights. Forget all that. The way he was raised, some of the stories. The dad used to make him and his brothers do like 6 inches, and he'd come and hit him with sticks on the leg and the like stuff you see in a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Bloodsport or something. I mean, that dude is wired differently. And in any locker room you're in, young guys are told by the vets, hey, if you're feeling a little froggy tonight, do not jump anywhere in the direction of James Johnson, the NBA's toughest guy, hands down. So That's it for me. Got to do it in lovely Charlotte. We'll see how the week goes for the Bulls, but Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks for all the behind the scenes work. And just remember, I got next.